All right, so today we're diving into something
Okay.
that might not sound super exciting at first.
Okay.
GRC architecture.
Mm.
I know,
Mhm.
governance, risk management, and compliance, it can
Yeah.
sound a bit dry,
Right.
but trust me,
Okay.
getting this right
Yeah.
can really make or break a company.
Yeah.
You see, most GRC teams are really good at gathering data,
Mm-hmm.
but they often get stuck in that role.
Right.
Instead of becoming those strategic advisors everyone needs them to be.
Uh-huh.
What we're going to unpack today is how the right GRC architecture
Okay.
can shift a GRC program
Yeah.
from simply reacting to problems
Right. Right.
to proactively tackling them
Mm.
before they even arise.
It's fascinating because on the surface,
Yeah.
GRC goals seem pretty straightforward. You
Yeah.
want to make sure you're complying with regulations, keep leadership informed about potential risks,
Yeah.
and manage what stakeholders are expecting. Seems
Yeah.
like a clear checklist, right?
Totally. But what happens in the real world?
Well,
Yeah.
as GRC teams grow,
Uh-huh.
they often become siloed.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You might have risk registers in one system,
Uh-huh.
audit findings in another, and control test results somewhere else entirely.
Okay.
It's messy.
I'm starting to see the problem.
Yeah.
You've got all this vital information scattered around.
Mm-hmm.
How can anyone make sense of it all?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
where this data gatherer problem comes in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of analyzing risks and providing insights,
Yeah.
GRC teams get bogged down with manually pulling data from different systems,
Yeah.
trying to piece together a coherent picture.
Wow.
It's inefficient
Yeah.
and prevents them from being truly proactive.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. I was working with a company
Yeah.
where the risk team
Mm-hmm.
identified a potential compliance issue
Okay.
related to a new product launch.
Gotcha.
They flagged it, but because their information was siloed,
Uh-huh.
the compliance team was completely unaware
Oh, wow.
and ended up approving the launch
Oh, no.
without the necessary controls.
Wow.
It created a huge mess
Yeah.
that could have been easily avoided with a more integrated approach.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's a painful but real-world example.
Yeah.
So if we're thinking about solutions, is the key a centralized GRC architecture?
It's a big piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Think of a centralized data repository, whether it's a data lake or a purpose-built GRC platform.
Right.
It's like bringing all those scattered puzzle pieces into one room.
Gotcha.
Suddenly, risk and compliance are speaking the same language, working from the same set of data.
Okay, so instead of static reports and spreadsheets flying around,
Yeah,
you have a dynamic living system
right.
where everyone can see the same picture.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that shared context is crucial for proactive risk management.
Now this brings up something I've been wondering about.
Okay.
The famous 3 lines of defense model.
Yeah,
It's been the gold standard for so long.
right.
But I'm hearing more and more that it might not always be the best approach.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that's being debated a lot lately.
Yeah.
You see the traditional 3LOD model,
Yeah.
where you have separate lines for operational management,
Yeah.
risk management and compliance,
Yeah.
and internal audit.
Mhm.
Works well in theory.
Yeah.
It creates clear roles and responsibilities. However, in practice, that strict separation
Yeah.
can sometimes create unnecessary barriers
Okay.
to effective risk management.
So you're saying that instead of fostering collaboration,
Mhm.
it can actually create more silos.
Exactly.
Wow.
There's a risk of these lines becoming walls,
Yeah.
hindering communication and slowing down remediation efforts.
Right.
I've seen situations where an issue is identified by the first line, but because of rigid reporting structures and a lack of shared context,
Yeah.
it takes weeks or even months
Oh, wow.
for it to reach the appropriate team in the second or third line for action.
Wow.
By that time, the problem has often escalated.
Wow, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So if we're moving away from this rigid separation,
Okay.
how can organizations make sure they're still managing risk effectively?
Right.
What's the secret sauce here?
Well, before we even think about fancy tools or technology,
Okay.
we need to optimize the way information flows within the organization. We need to break down those walls between departments
Yeah.
and foster genuine collaboration.
So you're saying that even if you have the most sophisticated GRC system,
Right.
if your risk compliance and audit teams aren't talking to each other,
Exactly.
sharing information and working together,
Yeah.
it's not going to do much good.
You can't just throw technology at a problem
Yeah,
and expect it to magically disappear.
right.
It's like having a state-of-the-art kitchen, but no ingredients to cook with.
That's such a great analogy.
Right.
So what's the recipe for success?
Yeah.
What are some practical steps
Yeah.
companies can take to get these teams on the same page?
One approach I've found to be incredibly effective
Right.
is to really break down the barriers between the first and second lines.
Okay.
Instead of having them operate in separate silos,
Yeah,
encourage them to work together to share knowledge and insights.
that sounds promising,
Yeah.
but how do you actually make that happen?
One practical step
Yeah.
is to establish regular cross-functional meetings
Mm-hmm.
where representatives from risk compliance and audit come together
Boy.
to discuss emerging risks, share best practices, and collaborate on remediation efforts.
Right.
You can also create shared platforms or tools
Okay.
where they can access and contribute to the same information.
So it's about building bridges and encouraging a more collaborative culture
Exactly.
rather than just relying on formal handoffs and reports.
It's about fostering a sense of shared ownership of risk management.
This is making me think about all those GRC professionals out there who are probably feeling stuck in that data gatherer role.
Yeah,
It sounds like this collaborative approach could really empower them
absolutely.
to become more strategic and impactful, right?
When GRC teams are freed from the burden
Yeah.
of manually connecting the dots,
Yeah.
they can finally focus on what they do best,
Right.
analyzing risks, providing insights,
Yeah.
and helping their organizations make smarter decisions.
This is really resonating with me.
Yeah.
It's about moving from a reactive mindset
Mm-hmm.
to a proactive one.
Exactly.
It's about shifting from simply reporting on what's already happened
Yeah.
to anticipating what might happen
Right.
and
Okay.
taking steps to mitigate those risks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the power of a well-designed GRC architecture.
Yeah.
It's about creating a framework
Mm-hmm.
that enables proactive risk management,
Right.
fosters collaboration,
Yeah.
and ultimately empowers GRC teams to become true strategic partners within their organizations.
Wow.
It really is about shifting that whole mindset from
Yeah.
just checking boxes
Right.
to actually driving value.
Mm-hmm.
GRCC can be so much more
Yeah.
than just a defensive measure.
I agree.
When it's done right,
Yeah.
it can actually help a company achieve its goals,
Mm-hmm.
not just avoid problems.
You know, when you put it that way, it makes
Yeah.
a ton of sense.
Right.
But let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
If a company wants to improve its GRC architecture,
Yeah.
where should they even start?
The first step
Yeah.
is to honestly assess where things stand right now.
Okay.
Where are those data silos?
Mm-hmm.
How is the information flowing or not flowing between teams?
Right.
What are the biggest pain points they're experiencing?
Yeah.
Once you've got a clear picture of the challenges,
Mm-hmm.
then you can start to build a roadmap for improvement.
Sounds like a classic case.
Yeah.
You can't fix what you don't acknowledge, right?
Absolutely.
And it seems like a huge part of this is going to be about communication and collaboration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To truly break down those silos,
Yeah.
you need open and honest communication between teams.
Right.
You have to build a culture where everyone understands risk
Yeah.
and feels responsible for managing it.
I bet this is where getting buy-in from leadership
Mm-hmm.
becomes critical.
Yes.
You're not going to implement a major change like this
Right.
without support from the top.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Leadership needs to grasp the value proposition of
Okay.
a robust GRC architecture.
Yeah.
They need to see how it can improve decision-making,
Right.
reduce costs,
Mhm.
and actually make the entire company more resilient. Otherwise, it's just another initiative that's going to get lost in the shuffle.
So it's more than just fancy technology.
Right.
It's about aligning
It is.
people processes.
Yeah.
And that overarching strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Technology is an enabler. It's
Yeah.
not a magic bullet.
Right.
You could have the most sophisticated GRC platform in the world,
Yeah.
but if your teams aren't talking to each other
Uh-huh.
and working together,
Yeah.
it's just going to sit there collecting dust.
Right.
It's like having a high-powered sports car
Okay.
and not knowing how to drive stick shift.
Gotcha.
You're not going to get very far.
I love that analogy.
Right.
So where do you even begin with something like this?
Well,
It feels like a pretty daunting undertaking.
it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Okay.
You can start small,
Yeah.
focusing on one or two key areas.
Right.
For example, maybe you want to improve
Okay.
collaboration between your risk and compliance teams.
Gotcha.
You could start by establishing regular meetings,
Huh?
developing shared processes,
Okay.
and creating a common language for discussing risk.
Okay, so start small and build from there.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But what if you're a GRC professional listening to this
Okay.
and you're thinking,
Yeah.
well, that all sounds great,
Uh-huh.
but my organization isn't quite ready
Mm-hmm.
to overhaul the entire GRC architecture.
Okay.
What are some things you can do right now
Right.
to start moving in the right direction?
That's a great question. And it's
Yeah.
something I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
Even small changes can have a big impact.
Yeah.
One thing you can do
Yeah.
is start by mapping out your current information flows.
Okay.
Literally grab a whiteboard or a piece of paper
Mm-hmm.
and draw out how information is moving
Right.
or not moving
Yeah.
between different teams.
Okay.
This simple exercise can help you identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement,
That's a great idea.
right?
It's amazing how much clarity you can gain
Yeah.
just by visualizing things.
Mm.
And it's something anyone can do,
Right.
regardless of their role or level
Exactly.
within the organization.
Another thing you can do is start building relationships
Mm-hmm.
with your counterparts in other departments.
Okay.
Grab coffee, have a virtual chat.
Yeah.
Just start getting to know each other
Right.
and understanding each other's perspectives.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
It's about breaking down those silos
It is.
on a personal level as well.
Uh-huh.
And it's so much easier to collaborate with someone
Yes.
when you have a personal connection.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
don't underestimate the power of simply asking questions.
Yeah.
If you're not sure how something works in another department, ask.
Okay?
If you think there might be a better way to do something, suggest it.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised by how receptive people are
Yeah.
to new ideas.
I'm starting to see a theme here.
Yeah.
It's about taking initiative, being proactive,
Mm-hmm.
and not being afraid to challenge the status quo.
Right.
It's about shifting the GRC mindset
Yeah.
from one of compliance cop
Yeah.
to one of strategic partner.
That's exactly right. And the beauty of it is that when you start to make these changes,
Uh-huh.
you'll likely find that people are eager to collaborate.
Right.
No one wants to work in a silo.
Right.
Everyone wants to feel like they're
Yeah.
contributing to the bigger picture.
I think that's such an important insight.
Yeah.
This isn't about forcing people to change.
Right.
It's about creating an environment
It is.
where people want to change.
Yeah.
Where they're excited to be part of a more collaborative and effective GRC program.
It's about creating a win-win situation
Yeah.
for everyone involved.
Okay. So we've talked about the importance of collaboration,
Mhm.
communication,
Right.
and leadership buy-in.
Yes.
But I'm curious,
Okay.
what are some of the tangible benefits
Yeah.
companies can expect to see
Hmm.
when they invest in improving their GRC architecture?
Okay.
What's the ROI here?
Well, for starters,
Yeah.
you can expect to see improved efficiency
Okay.
when your data is centralized and your teams are working together seamlessly.
Yeah.
You can streamline processes
Mm-hmm.
and eliminate redundancies.
Right?
Think about all those hours wasted
Yeah.
chasing down information,
Right.
attending unnecessary meetings,
Mhm.
and creating duplicate reports.
Yeah.
A well-designed GRC architecture
Right.
can eliminate a lot of that wasted time and effort.
Less time spent on busy work
Right.
means more time spent on strategic initiatives.
Exactly.
That's a win in my book.
And you'll also see improved risk visibility.
Okay.
When you have a clear view of your entire risk landscape,
Uh-huh.
you can make more informed decisions
Yeah.
about how to allocate resources
Right.
and prioritize mitigation efforts.
Okay.
You're no longer just reacting to problems as they pop up.
Right.
You're proactively identifying and addressing potential risks
Yeah.
before they even become issues.
And that can translate into a significant reduction
Right.
in risk exposure and potential losses.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how this can impact the bottom line.
And ultimately, a strong GRC architecture
Mhm.
can contribute to a more resilient organization,
Okay.
one that's better equipped
Yeah.
to navigate the complexities of today's business environment.
Right.
We live in a world of constant change and disruption,
Yeah.
and companies that can adapt quickly and effectively
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that are going to thrive.
So it's not just about compliance.
Yeah.
It's about survival.
It is?
It's about building a culture
Yeah.
of risk awareness and proactive risk management
Yes.
that permeates every level of the organization.
It's about embedding GRC into the very fabric of the company,
Wow.
making it part of the DNA, so to speak.
This all ties back to what we were saying earlier about moving beyond the data gatherer mentality.
Yeah.
GRC needs to be agile,
Right.
proactive, and forward-looking.
Yes.
It's about anticipating what's coming next and being prepared to meet those challenges head on.
And that requires a solid foundation.
Yeah.
Which is why GRC architecture is so crucial.
Right.
It's the framework that allows you to build a truly effective and impactful GRC program.
Yeah.
It's the launch pad for everything else.
Okay, so we've covered the challenges,
Yeah.
the solutions, and the benefits.
Right.
But before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
What are some common pitfalls organizations should avoid
Okay.
when it comes to GRC architecture?
Okay.
What are some things that can trip people up?
One common mistake
Okay.
is trying to do too much too soon.
Okay.
It's tempting to want to implement a comprehensive GRC platform all at once, but that can be overwhelming
Right.
and lead to resistance from stakeholders.
Yeah.
It's like trying to climb Mount Everest in one day.
Wow. Okay.
You need to acclimate yourself.
Yeah.
Take it one step at a time.
It's better to start small
Right?
and focus on getting the basics right.
Yeah.
Crawl before you walk.
Walk before you run, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Another pitfall is failing to engage stakeholders throughout the process.
Okay.
You need to get buy-in
Yeah.
from all levels of the organization, from the board of directors to the frontline employees.
Right.
If people don't understand why they're being asked to change,
Right.
they're less likely to embrace it.
Yeah.
It's crucial to communicate the value proposition clearly and to involve people in the process from the very beginning.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about creating a sense of ownership, not just dictating change from on high.
And finally,
Sure.
don't forget about the human element.
Right.
GRC is about people,
Yeah.
not just technology. Invest in training and development for your GRC team. Foster a culture of collaboration and continuous learning.
Because at the end of the day,
Right.
it's the people who are going to make or break your GRC program.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Technology can provide the tools, but it's the people who will use those tools effectively
Right.
to drive positive change.
So it sounds like GRC architecture is really about
Yeah.
laying the groundwork for a more resilient,
Yes.
adaptable, and successful organization.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
To empower organizations to not just survive, but thrive in the face of uncertainty and risk.
And to move beyond the data gatherer label
Oh, right.
and become true strategic partners
Exactly.
within the organization.
It's about leveraging GRC
Yeah.
to create value and drive positive outcomes for the business.
Well said.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking back to something you said earlier
Okay.
about turning GRC from a cost center into a value driver. I think that's such a powerful way to frame it.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling our listeners are going to have a lot to think about after this conversation.
I hope so.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive today, haven't we?
We have.
We've talked about those frustrating data silos
Yeah.
that plague GRC teams, the game-changing power of centralized data,
Right.
and why collaboration and communication are absolutely crucial.
Absolutely.
We even dared to question the almighty three lines of defense model.
Sometimes the sacred cows need a little shaking up, right?
Yeah, sometimes they do.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to you, dear listener.
Okay.
What should you be taking away from all this talk about GRC architecture?
Yeah.
What's the core message
Yeah.
you can apply to your own work?
For me, the big takeaway is that
Yeah.
GRC architecture isn't just about technology or processes. It's about fostering a culture, a way of thinking,
Okay.
where everyone is aware of risk,
Right.
collaborates to manage it,
Yeah.
and doesn't wait for problems to hit before taking action.
So we're talking about something much bigger
Yeah.
than just checking boxes and making sure we're compliant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about weaving GRC into the very fabric of your organization.
Okay.
Imagine a company where everyone from the top down understands risk and feels empowered to manage it. That's the kind of environment we're trying to create.
And I think we've established that a centralized GRC architecture
Right?
can be a real game changer in achieving this vision.
Absolutely.
It's like using a powerful lens
Yeah.
to bring all those scattered pieces of risk information into focus.
It helps break down those silos,
Yeah.
creates a single source of truth for everyone,
Mm.
and allows GRC teams to provide the kind of insights
Right.
that leadership needs to make smart, informed decisions.
Which at the end of the day is what it's all about, right?
Yes.
It's helping the organization navigate risk effectively and achieve those big, hairy, audacious goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about using GRC to drive success, not just avoid failure.
I love that.
Right.
So to all those GRC professionals out there
Yeah.
who are tired of being seen as just data gatherers,
Uh-huh.
take heart.
Mm-hmm.
You have the power to change the narrative.
You do.
Advocate for a strong GRC architecture. Push for a more collaborative, proactive approach
Right.
to risk management.
Mm-hmm.
Help your organizations move beyond that reactive mindset
Yeah.
and embrace a future
Mm-hmm.
where GRC is a true strategic partner.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
experiment with new approaches,
Yeah.
and never underestimate the impact
Right.
you can have on your organization's success.
Okay.
Couldn't agree more.
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
It is.
We've only just scratched the surface, but I hope it's sparked some new ideas and inspired you to think differently about GRC architecture.
Me too.
And remember, even small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Start by having those conversations,
Yes.
building those relationships, and advocating for a more strategic approach to GRC
Right.
within your organization.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be the one
Yeah.
to turn GRC from a cost center into a value driver.
Now, that's a legacy worth striving for.
It is. That's a wrap on our deep dive into GRC architecture.
Okay.
We hope you found it valuable and thought-provoking.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.